Understood. There's a number 137, and by rights it has no business existing. It arrives with no units attached, no inches, no seconds, no kilograms, nothing you could ever lay a ruler against. It is bare and it decides whether atoms, stars, and you're allowed to exist at all. By the time we finish, you'll be standing in front of a single choice, and neither door is comfortable. Either this number is a fingerprint pressed there deliberately, or it's the most fortunate accident in the whole reality. Begin with why it's so odd. Nearly every number in science is wearing a costume. Light moves at 300,000 only because you happen to pick kilometers and seconds. Swap to miles and the figure shifts. Measure in the length of your own foot and it shifts again. Every one of those numbers is telling you about your measuring stick, not about the cosmos. This one is different. There's no measuring stick hidden inside it. Physicists call it the fine structure constant, and once you peel away all the units, the meters, the coulombs, the seconds, they wipe each other out completely. What survives is a naked number that floats free of every human decision you could possibly make. Sit with what that implies. On some world you'll never lay eyes on, circling a star that carries no name, a mind nothing like yours could be measuring this very thing. Another language, another set of symbols, another everything. And it would end up writing down the identical number you're staring at right now, 137. This is as close to a universal truth as physics has ever come, not a truth about atoms, a truth about the rules atoms are forced to follow. And that number governs precisely one thing, how firmly light grips matter. Slacken that grip, and nothing you're built from stays together. Keep hold of that word, grip, because in roughly 4 minutes, it's going to flip everything you take for granted about your own body. Walk outside on a clear morning. Sunlight lands on your face. You feel the heat spreading over your skin. That slow, soft warmth you felt 10,000 times and never once interrogated. Trace it backwards. That warmth traveled 93 million miles of empty space to find you. It departed the surface of the sun 8 minutes ago as light. A river of tiny parcels of energy spilling outward in every direction. A few of those parcels, a laughably small fraction, happened to follow the one path that terminates on the skin of your cheek. And when they got there, they didn't sail straight through you. They halted. They passed their energy over to the atoms in your skin, and those atoms shivered. And that shiver is the warmth you're feeling. Every stage of that, the light escaping the sun, the light being swallowed by you, the atoms taking the energy on board instead of shrugging it off. Every single stage is dictated by one number, how firm the handshake between light and matter is. Dial that number down and sunlight would slip through you as though you were window glass, cold and untouched. Dial it up and that same light would scorch you where you stood. You are standing inside a warmth that has been calibrated, tuned, fixed at a value you never picked and never even registered. And here's the piece that ought to freeze you. In the entire history of science, not one person has managed to explain why it's parked exactly there. Now, most people, hearing about a number like this, ask the wrong thing. They ask what it is. What's the value? That part's simple. It's roughly one part in 137. 1 over 137.036. But that isn't the question that pulls the floor out. The genuine question, the one that keeps physicists staring at ceilings, is what the number is. It's why it's that. Why 137 and not 136? Was that figure demanded by some deeper law we haven't uncovered yet? A law with no option but to produce exactly that result? Or could have landed anywhere at all, and by sheer fluke it settled on the one thin value that permits a universe to wake up and study itself? One of those answers gestures toward design. The other gestures toward luck, and nobody alive knows which. Because when the finest minds who ever lived set out to prove it had to be that figure, they didn't merely come up short, they humiliated themselves. Here's where the assumption splits open. You've been quietly assuming all along that a number this important must come with a reason, that in some textbook, somewhere, a clever person derived it the way you can derive the area of a circle, that it's understood. It isn't, and the tale of people trying to understand it is among the strangest in all of science. There was a gifted astronomer, one of the most admired thinkers of his era, who convinced himself the number had to be precisely 1 over 136. He constructed an elaborate case for it. Pure reasoning, he insisted. Then the measurements sharpened and the true value came out nearer to 137. So he tore the argument down and rebuilt it to demonstrate the answer had to be 137 all along. His colleagues began calling it numerology in a physicist's coat. An entire lifetime standing quietly damaged in pursuit of a number that refused to be pinned down. Then there was one of the founding architects of quantum theory, a man who helped draft the rule book of the atom itself. This number stalked him for decades. It shadowed him, and when he lay dying, he was brought to a hospital and shown to a room. The room number was 137. His friend said he saw it and grasped the joke the universe was telling. And one of the most celebrated physicists of the past century, a man whose name this channel quietly honors, told his students that every decent theoretical physicist ought to pin this number on the wall and lose sleep over it. He called it one of the great unsolved riddles of physics, a magic number, handed to us with no comprehension whatsoever, as though it had been left on the doorstep by an unseen hand. Hold that picture, because here's your first real answer. The reason none of them could derive it is that, as far as anyone can currently demonstrate, it isn't derivable. It isn't calculated out of anything more fundamental. In the equations, it's inserted by hand. A figure of the universe simply passes you. Take it or leave it. But that opens a far bleaker question. If nothing compels a value, then what fixed it? And what would have followed if it had been fixed even a fraction differently? Right now, a sensible voice in your head is pushing back, and it deserves a proper hearing. The objection runs like this. That's an awful lot of theater over an ordinary measured constant. Physics is stuffed with them. We measure the electron's mass, the proton's charge, dozens of quantities, and we just looked them up. This one's no different. We measured it, we noted it down, done. Why all the mysticism? The textbook would take your side. It would say the fine structure constant is nothing more than the coupling constant of electromagnetism, a dial reporting how forcefully charged things shove and attract. Just a figure in an equation. But the universe is up to something far weirder than the textbook lets on. Here's the distinction. Most of those other constants come with units, which means they come with human fingerprints. Your choice of measuring stick is baked right into them. This one has none. Strip it down and it stays stripped. It belongs to a tiny handful of numbers that are simply true everywhere, for everyone, and there's a deeper fracture. We can at least hope, in principle, to account for some constants using others, to show this quantity springs from that one and shrink the mystery. But this number sits at the very bottom. Nothing more basic has ever been shown to generate it. The most complete theory of light and matter we own, the most precisely verified theory in the whole history of science, accurate past 10 decimal places, takes this number as an input. It does not account for it. The theory that forecasts everything else cannot forecast this. And it isn't the only one, which somehow makes it worse. There's just a small club of these pure unit-free numbers, perhaps a couple of dozen, that the universe seems to simply announce, with no derivation, no parent equation, no justification offered. This is the club's most famous member, and every attempt to demote it, to expose it as the offspring of something simpler, has quietly collapsed. So the theater isn't mysticism. The theater is that we've raised a cathedral of physics that gets very nearly everything right, and sitting dead in the middle of it is one brick nobody laid, and nobody can shift. And it gets worse, because that brick isn't merely unexplained. It's teetering on a razor's edge. That razor's edge is the second thing the textbook omits. This number doesn't just need a reason. It needs to be almost precisely what it is. Nudge it, and the cathedral doesn't get slightly worse. It comes down. Let me show you how far the fall goes by putting the number into your own hands. Picture a room. Blank walls. One dial in the middle, waist height, like the volume knob on an old radio. Nothing else in there. No instructions, no maker, no clue who built it or what for. Hat dial governs a single thing for the entire universe, how firm the handshake between light and matter is. At the moment, it reads 1/137, and I'm going to let you turn it. Reach out, take your time. Feel it click beneath your fingers. Turn it upward first. Make the grip firmer. At first you'd notice nothing. The room looks identical, but keep going. As the grip tightens, the electrons in every atom are hauled inward harder, pinned closer to their nuclei. atoms start to contract. The soft, pliable bonds that let molecules flex and fold and stack themselves into living things begin to stiffen, then seize solid, like joints locking in deep cold. Keep turning. Down inside the hearts of stars, the delicate sequence of reactions that manufactures carbon in their cores falls out of tune. The precise resonance the whole process depends on drifts off, and the furnaces that cook the raw ingredients of life go quiet. No carbon. And carbon is the backbone of every living thing you've ever touched or ever been. Now stop, turn it the other way, back past the middle, and keep going. Loosen the grip. Atoms bloat and go slack. Electrons wandering further and further out, held by less and less. Bonds weaken until molecules can't hold a shape. They blur and smear and fall apart in your hands. Turn it far enough, and matter simply cannot arrange itself into anything complicated at all. No chemistry worth the word. No biology. No you. Just a thin, cold, shapeless mist drifting unchanged forever with nobody inside it to notice. Try, for a second, to locate the good band by touch, to twist the dial by hand some spot where a universe of atoms and stars and living creatures could exist. You'd be searching a long while. Nearly the whole dial is dead in one direction or the other, rigid or slack, scorched or frozen, always short of something it needs. The usable stretch is so narrow your fingers would sail straight past it and never know. Bring it back to the middle, back to the sliver. Because here's the part that lifts the hair on your arms. The band on that dial where anything interesting can occur, where atoms hold together, where stars can cook carbon, where chemistry is rich enough to build a thinking mind, is narrow, not the whole dial. A thin sliver of the entire range. And the pointer, the one you never set, the one already turned before you ever stepped into the room, is resting quietly inside that sliver. You're holding a dial that was already set to the one position that allows a hand to exist to hold it. If you stumbled on a dial like that in an empty room, already fixed at the single setting that makes life possible, what's your honest first thought? Somebody said it or you got lucky. Say it out loud before you hear my answer. Because there is a way to explain that lucky setting with no designer anywhere in the picture, and once you see it, you may never unsee it. Start from what you just did with your hand on that dial, because there are 3 ways to understand what you were actually turning, and each one runs deeper than the last. The first is the feeling. Picture 2 magnets and the way they tug at one another across a gap. That pull you can sense in your fingers when you bring them close, and something invisible shoves back. Every electric charge in the universe is doing a version of that constantly. The fine structure constant is simply how hard. It's the answer to one question. When a scrap of light meets a scrap of matter, how likely are they to actually catch hold of each other rather than drift past like 2 strangers on a pavement? A small number means a bashful universe, where light and matter mostly ignore one another. Ours is bashful, but not too bashful. Light catches the atoms in your skin often enough to warm you, seldom enough not to tear you apart. Your entire comfortable existence lives inside that not too much, not too little. The second way is the arithmetic, and I promise to keep every symbol in ordinary human words. That bare number is assembled by taking 3 of the deepest quantities in nature and folding them into each other. So their units annihilate and leave pure number behind. You take the electric charge carried by 1 electron, the basic measure of how much a thing can push and pull. You place beneath it the speed of light, the universe's absolute speed ceiling, the fastest anything is ever permitted to move. And you fold in the quantum of action, the smallest dose of change a universe will allow, the graininess at the very floor of everything, charge on top, the speed of light and the quantum grain underneath. Turn the handle in the units, the meters, the seconds, the coulombs. All cancel away. What drops out the far end is 1 over 137. Sit with that a moment. 3 of the most fundamental facts about reality: the size of a charge, the speed of light, the grain of the quantum world, plated together into a single number. It's the one place where electricity, relativity, and the quantum all meet and shake hands. 3 of the great pillars of physics. And this number is the not tying them into one. There's a second way to feel the very same number, simpler still than the equation. In the most basic atom of all, the solitary electron doesn't sit still. It moves. And its speed? compared against the speed of light, is almost exactly this number, a 137 of light speed. So it isn't just an abstract coupling buried in some formula. It's literally how fast the innermost piece of matter is permitted to travel, slow, by the universe's standards, which is only another way of saying the electromagnetic grip is gentle. Were it much stronger, that electron would be dragged toward light speed, and the strange machinery of relativity would rip the simple, stable picture of the atom to shreds. And the knot keeps a secret. It doesn't even hold the same size, something almost nobody outside physics has ever been told. The third way is the deepest, and it's the honest one. I've been calling it a constant this entire time. That isn't quite true, and the truth is stranger than the lie. How strong that grip is actually depends on how closely you look. Bump particles together softly from a distance, and you get the famous 1/137. But smash them together violently at close range, at enormous energy, and the grip grows stronger. The number climbs towards something more, like 1/128. The value you've been marveling at is only the long-range, everyday face of the number. The universe keeps an inner value. It will only reveal under extreme pressure. Why does it shift at all? Because empty space isn't empty. It boils with particles flickering into and out of existence, and they swarm around every charge like fog, half concealing it. Get near enough to punch through the fog, and you catch a glimpse of the charge's true, larger strength. The famous number is what you see from far off, peering to the full depth of that fog. So even a constant is a sort of average of something restless underneath. So what is this thing at bottom? It's a statement about how forcefully one of the four basic forces of nature is permitted to act. And here I have to be careful with you, because this is exactly the line where honest physics stops and interpretation starts. Some physicists suspect that a deeper theory, one we haven't finished writing, will one day compel this number to be what it is, the way the rules of chess compel certain endings whether you care for them or not. If they're right, the mystery melts into mathematics, and the fingerprint turns out to have been a theorem we simply hadn't proven yet. Others suspect no such theory exists, that the number is simply free, a setting the universe could have shipped without any value whatsoever. Neither view has been proven. Anybody who tells you this question is closed is selling you something. But whichever camp turns out to be correct, there's a fact hiding beneath both of them that stretches from a single atom all the way up to the whole night sky. And that's where this stops being abstract. Take that grip and follow it upward through every size of thing that exists, smallest to largest. Start at the smallest scale, a single atom. That number sets how fast the electron races around its nucleus. In the simplest atom there is, the electron travels at very nearly a 137th of light speed. No quicker and no slower. The number isn't merely describing the atom from outside. It's the atom's own speed limit, written straight into its bones. Alter the number and every atom in existence changes size and behavior at once. Rise to the scale of light itself. When atoms glow, they don't release a smooth wash of color. They release sharp, specific lines, a barcode unique to every element in the universe. And look very closely, and each of those lines is split again into finer lines sitting right alongside. That splitting is precisely where this number earned its name, the fine structure of the spectrum. It's also why we can aim a telescope at a star 1,000 light years off and read exactly what it's built from. This single number is the reason light carries a signature at all. Rise to your own scale, the scale of a living body. Every color you have ever seen, every warmth you have ever felt on your skin, every chemical bond in every cell you're assembled from is that same grip at work. Grip holding vision, warmth, the entire chemistry of being alive. All of it is this one number playing itself out trillions upon trillions of times a second inside you, without pause for the whole of your life. You aren't watching this number from a safe distance. You are built out of it moment by moment. Everything you call you is this. Rise to the scale of stars. Deep in stellar cores, this number helps govern the exact reaction that fuses lighter elements into carbon. Every carbon atom in your hand, in your blood, in the ink of every word you've ever read, was cooked inside a star under rules this number helped write. Change it, and the cosmic bakery that produced you never opens its doors. The recipe for your body was written in fire, and this number held the pen. Rise, finally, to the largest scale there is the entire visible cosmos, a web of galaxies strung out across billions of light years of darkness. The very same handshake that gently warmed your face is the one that allowed matter to gather, ignite, and set the whole sky alight with stars. One number reaching unbroken from inside a single atom all the way to the furthest edge we can see. The same rule, unbroken at both ends of existence. Either the most elegant economy imaginable or the strangest coincidence there's ever been. Pull all of that back down to the size of your own hand. What should stop you isn't that the number is big or small or precise. It's that one bare, unitless number reaches across every scale there is, from the spin of a single electron to the shape of the entire universe, and binds them all to the identical rule. The very small and the very large aren't two separate stories after all. They're the same story, told by one number at every volume at once. That alone ought to feel impossible. And yet there it is, in plain view, in the warmth on your hand. And now the choice. I promised you at the start, here's one reading. A number with no explanation, sitting in the one narrow band that permits atoms, stars, chemistry, and minds. A number any thinking being anywhere would measure to be precisely the same. To some people that looks exactly like a signature, like something set deliberately by someone, a fingerprint pressed into the wet foundation of reality before there was anybody alive to watch it dry. For them, the strangest of the number is a door, and behind the door stands a mind. Here's the other reading, and it is every bit as serious. Perhaps there isn't one universe, but countless ones, each leaving the factory with a different setting on that dial. In almost all of them, the setting is wrong. Nothing ever forms, and nobody is ever born to notice how wrong it is. We simply find ourselves inside one of the rare universes where the dial happens to rest in the narrow band. Not because it was chosen for us, but because we could only ever have opened our eyes in the sort of universe that permits eyes to open. On this reading, the fingerprint is your own, pressed onto the glass from the inside. Both readings fit every fact we possess. Neither can be proven from a number alone. So which is it? A fingerprint or a fluke? Notice that the number itself won't tell you. It just sits there, 1 over 137, perfectly silent. And it fits a universe made by a mind exactly as neatly as it fits a universe made by nothing but chance and unimaginably many attempts. The evidence is identical on both sides of the door. The only thing that differs is what you're willing to believe is standing behind it. And perhaps that silence is the real lesson. Perhaps the deepest thing this number has to teach isn't an answer at all. Perhaps it's how astonishingly thin the wall is between ordinary physics and something far larger. You started all this by feeling sunlight on your face, the most unremarkable warmth in the world, something you'd felt 10,000 times without a second thought. And beneath it, all the way down, sat a number nobody on earth can explain, quietly holding the whole arrangement in place, tuned to the one value in a vast range that let you be standing there to feel it all. Is that a message or an accident? Was the warmth intended for you? Or did you simply happen to be the kind of creature that such a warmth permits? I can't settle that question for you, and I won't insult you by pretending otherwise. Honest people who have given their entire lives to stand firmly on both sides, and after a century of looking, the number still hasn't picked between them. Perhaps the only honest posture is to hold the number the way you'd hold something fragile that turned up on your doorstep without a note, not rushing to name the sender, and not pretending there couldn't have been one. To let it remain strange, because the instant you force it to be either proof or coincidence, you stop looking at the thing itself and start looking only at the hopes you carried to it. But the next time the sun touches your skin, you'll know what's hiding inside the warmth. If this question is still sitting with you, the next one goes straight for the root. If a mind fine-tuned the universe, then who fine-tuned that mind? If God made everything, who made God? That one's waiting on your screen right now. One number, 137, and still nobody knows.